We've done the dance, talked a little NBA. We've done some MLB, done some frozen ropes, some dingers. But we want to introduce the audience today to a new sport, maybe a sport you guys haven't heard of. NFL, and for those of you guys who aren't familiar with the abbreviation, that stands for National Football League. It's this brand new sport on Underdog, and they came out swinging. There's a contest with a $250,000 top prize. Jon and I are going to break it down, try to wrap our heads around this exciting new sport today on Off and On the Clock. All right, still no Nez with us here today, Jon. Although, did I see a screenshot of you two holding hands at the top of a leaderboard yesterday?
Yeah, man, I thought I was safe. I thought I was safe to finally be rid of him in the lobbies and stuff, but confirmation that he did, in fact, watch the show yesterday because he duped me in the crossover there. So 1-1 together. I wouldn't have it any other way, Pete.
Wow, duping each other in the crossover. Granted, it is a smaller contest. What generally has 300, 400 entries in it?
Yeah, 300.
And you guys had the same lineup. Was there anything unique about it, or was it kind of an ADP chalkish team?
It was a little unique with a heart faller, but then it was also unique that we both swapped to Westbrook. Basically, I had a really nice night last night. I took down both the side contests and was making some noise in the main there. But I was really bullish on the swap potential of Jamal. Basically, he was my second highest owned player because I thought it was just so clean to swap to Russell Westbrook if he didn't go. So, and I love the spot, and there was going to be that late value, and Nez saw it the same way.
Beautiful. You're like I've taken the past couple slates off from NBA. I was busy yesterday, and I started. This is how I, as a normie basketball player, approach things, Jon. I pull up, the default ranks ADP, and I see how many Q tags there are. And when there are a shit ton of Q tag, I'm just like, I can't deal with this shit right now. Like, I know Jon's gonna do a show. I love watching you and Nez break it down, but I'm sitting this one out. I'm not going to deal with this shit. But apparently, if you dealt with the shit, you could come out ahead.
Yeah, yesterday was not for the faint of heart. Yesterday was a little bit of silly season mixed with a whole bunch of back-to-backs. And I actually led the show yesterday with, I think this is by far the most difficult slate of the year. Like, this was the models aren't going to get this right.
Don't lead a show with that anymore, Jon, because I heard that. I tapped in to listen to you, and I think I X'd out shortly after. I was like, you're right. I'm not dealing with this. So no, say this is the easiest slate of the year, and I'm going to tell you the answers over the next hour and a half.
Hey, I mean, I did tell you the answers. I was a man of my word and executed exactly what I said. But yeah, it was a pretty tough one. Pete, circling back on that, getting back into NFL here, I saw a Rudman tweet this morning, and we're 37 or 38 days, I believe, from the draft, and it was MLB opening night in Japan this morning, and you juxtapose those two things, and nobody cares about one of them, yet everybody cares about drafting big boards right now. It's truly sick.
And I believe the tone of Rudman's tweet was that it felt like we still have a long way to go, right?
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Well,
yeah.
It to me, though, it's like I read it the other way, because my thing is, like, we all know what's going to happen, right? When the draft happens, then we are off to the races. All the big contests are dropping. Like, we are in full-on best ball summer mode, like, the second it happens. And yes, there's degrees to it. May is still pretty much a sicko month, and then, the normies will trickle in. But for our purposes, like, we are off to the races. And so I have all these things I want to do. You and me might be working on a little project behind the scenes. Like, I want more time for things right now. So when I see that, I'm like, God damn it, because that's going to take, that's going to consume all of us. So I want the NFL draft to be further away, but I'm probably unique on that take.
I want it further away too, because I mean, we're 10 days away from actual opening day for baseball, and I still got 65 dingers to complete here. So I'm trying to jam those in while filling the void of hoops there. I could use that little elongated break until the draft.
Yeah, that is partly. I felt a little, the chat was kind of me pinning me down on Monday on Best Ball Breakfast because I've been parroting this thing of, hey, I'm not blasting off on big board drafts, pretty much just drafting live on stream right now. Trying to pace myself, trying not to get burnout. Then I am like, but I am drafting like 50 to 60 NBA teams like most nights too. So maybe I'm not pacing myself, but I do think there's an element of it for me. I was trying to reconcile this in my head. And I am getting to participate in hoops like as a fan and as a consumer. Like I'm watching you guys, I'm watching the unabated guys, checking in on what the ETR guys like. I am just a flat out consumer. I don't have to think about content. I don't have to think about angles or matchups. It's just like I can digest and play as a fan. Whereas obviously the NFL side of me is like, oh, should that be a video? Should that be a newsletter post? Like my brain's always functioning there. So I do love the like NBA truly is a hobby for me, and I'm enjoying that.
That therein lies the beauty and simplicity of the BadgeBros brand there, Pete, because everybody expects you to be an expert on the NFL related stuff. Nobody expects anything from me because I'm just slapping away and blasting away in all these different contests. So I just get to be a fan across all sports. It's truly great.
Yes. And no, I am like even dabbling. I mean, I always obviously respected what you guys did. There's a reason that you guys are housed in the Deposit Kingdom and we do shows regularly. But I will say, like, just starting to scratch the surface of NBA, and then I see you guys over here doing the MLB drafts. And my brain starts to melt. I'm like, how do you guys hold so many takes in your head? But I guess if one of those takes is just TJ McConnell, no matter what, it's not that hard.
I was just about to say TJ McConnell, no matter what, Mike Trout, no matter what, and Tony Redacted, no matter what. I only actually have 3 takes, Pete.
Yeah, and then we got the golf guys. My producer Mark, who helps out on Best Ball Breakfast, he mentioned that he took down one of the daily slates in the PGA streets. Now we got the college basketball. I unfortunately am not allowed to do those in Massachusetts, which bums me out. Are you able to do college basketball drafts?
Yeah, I'm in the clear there. I just don't really know shit.
Yeah.
I hopped in one the other night just because my cousin, we were out with them on Saturday night or whatever, and he was watching all the conference games in the background, all the conference finals games, and I was just like, I don't even know who's in them right now, kind of deal. And he plays, some underdog, but some low stakes kind of stuff. So I showed him that contest and we just hopped in one together. So that was my first getting the feet wet there, but I had no idea what I was doing. And outside of Cooper Flag, I couldn't name anybody until it rolls around to NBA season next year.
But isn't it, I mean, similar to all the playoff contests, I mean, isn't it just a correlation sport? Where it's like, if you take Cooper Flag, you're going out of your way to get the rest of the Duke players, because if he's winning you the tournament, like, sure, could he drop 30 in 3 games and then lose? Yeah, but it's most likely then like a star on a team who goes to the finals is going to be optimal. So I do think that would be a game you could kind of short circuit. And if you think about the information disadvantage, it's like, man, if I go into one of these MLB lobbies, trust me, I see the sick fucks who are playing MLB in the Deposit Kingdom. Like, I know what I'm going against. At least with college basketball, there probably aren't quite as many sickos who like have, know the player pool inside and out.
That's true, man. That is true. The waters are far warmer, and I definitely want to have that March Madness sweat. So I'm definitely gonna have to mix in a couple more though. Though Davis currently, as we speak, is trying to breed those NCAA sickos right there, because he's giving away the alpha on his channel. I was seeing as we started. So
yeah,
the games are no longer safe, Pete.
That's right. Yeah, I'm just because that is a contest that I would be excited to draft. But they don't let me in Massachusetts. I'm allowed to bet on MLB, NHL, but apparently college athletes, that's where we draw the line. Can't be drafting those guys on our fantasy teams. Anything else going on in the world of BadgeBros? What other shows do you have lined up for this week? I think I saw a tweet. You filling in for Nez?
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of stuff coming. I'm going to run a solo one that will redirect this audience straight to their members only after this. Only a 4-game hoops slate, so break that down quickly there. I think I got about 40 of those done this morning. Do a dinger after that. And then Mike Zakarian's going to come on tomorrow for a loaded 11-game NBA slate. Talk a little bit of hoops with him. And then Hayden, way too long to catch up with Hayden since he's had a kid and been grinding in the
Yeah.
streets there. So really looking forward to that. Get some alpha on the combine, on the upcoming draft, etc. From Hayden on Thursday, and then I'll probably run a members only after that as well to just give my NBA sickos something to chew on, and then Friday looking for a dinger potential, but might save that till next week. But my puck guys, I got my puck guys covered next week. I think it's going to be Tuesday. No official word yet, but we're going to do the Zamboni after off and on the clock there with DJ Mitchell and Matt Mood. So that'll be fun.
There you go. I mean, we can roll them in too. We can do off and on the clock with the puck guys. We can do a puck show.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
I'll float that to them then too. I know it's like tax season and that sort of stuff. So DJ's schedule is like pretty blocked up until 5 p.m. Eastern, but I'll float that if they're available during this window that we could just do it as often on the clock.
Yeah, I'm just trying to ride my way because I feel like, I've had the dinger luck with you guys, and I've had the Zamboni luck. When I drafted with those guys, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, I had that sick Avs team that they helped me construct. So I'm always just trying to wiggle my way into a handheld draft that's a really strong team.
It's not about being the sharpest guy in the room, Pete. It's about knowing who the sharpest guy in the room is, and that's nothing says that more than getting those guys on our streams for puck.
I mean, that's been my philosophy for a long time. Just know who the smart people are. You don't have to be that smart if you know who the smart people are. It really is true. It makes your life a lot easier.
I mean, no sport is that truer than NFL right now. It's really funny to hop back into NFL today, for instance, and just the plethora of resources available to you to hop back in these streets and feel like you barely skipped a beat. Like just between leg up, ETR, fantasy life, like you do an hour's worth of research and it's like, okay, cool, I'm back. Like, that sort of thing. Now I didn't do that hour's worth of research so that the content would be better, but it's just funny juxtaposed to like, you're really hard pressed to even find rankings for like daily basketball or rankings for MLB. The dinger stuff there's very niche avenues that you have to go through to get them. So yeah, it's very interesting dynamic to playing football juxtaposed to playing other sports.
Yeah, I know, because it was like it was like a big deal the other day when Stochastic announced that they were going to have underdog ranks. Because they were, I mean, are there any other, there's ETR and Stochastic as far as downloadable CSV direct, 2 clicks, get it up to the site. Are those the only ones that are out there?
Yep, that's all there is right now. I know Unabated behind the scenes is working on a little something to go in tandem with that and a little bit of like forward-facing front landing page, that sort of deal. But as of right now, yeah, those would be the two. And Stochastics are free right now, so people will be in there checking them out. It's kind of funny to see how they skewed drafts yesterday in a big way because you could see that Stochastic was really high on Durant, and so was ETR at one point there. So, it really flipped the boards by just people having access to those.
Yeah. I wonder too, I mean, we talk about ETR being such a big market maker for NBA. I wonder Stochastic just launched this, but free Stochastic and then paid ETR, like how long it would take for the Stochastic ranks to have an equal amount of impact, just knowing, hey, there's a lot of people who want to play. All of a sudden you got some free ranks from a sharp site. Let me test it out.
I think if they keep harping on it and hounding on it in their content, because I know there's a lot of overlap in the content viewership because, who else are you watching at lock while you're drafting? It's primarily Stochastic or ETR as of right now. Some people doing the DK or doing the roto grinders stuff as well. But when you're jamming at lock and that's kind of like the background noise, the more you hear it from, Spags and Josh while they're going through it, the more people are going to be like, oh yeah, shit, we got to get those rankings. We got to get those. So I think the trickle down effects of them being free, I mean, give it 2 weeks.
Yeah. I wonder how long they'll run that promo, but I think a smart thing to do. And I mean, I mentioned this. I had Wood on After Dark on Saturday night. And, we were kind of talking about, those rankings specifically. And, one of his big takeaways, and you should go watch the whole show because he gave out a lot of good nuggets on that. But was just kind of stuff we talk about a lot around here too, of like, you just need to do something different, right? Like, you've got to find a way to differentiate yourself, because there are a lot of people who are content to straight copy and paste ranks and auto draft off of them in like a blind way. That probably stems, John, from the old joke, like no one loses in NBA DFS. That goes back to the redacted days, even some early underdog days. But now there's some really, really sharp drafters in the NBA ecosystem, and you do have to find ways to differentiate yourself. And, just understanding that the way these rankings are made, as good as ETR and Stochastic are, like, they are not full-time focused on these ranks for tournament winning purposes. They are essentially giving you their outputs from their projections, converting them to underdog scoring, matching them up with a CSV and letting you upload those. But those don't know about Q tags, right? They're not playing a guessing game. They're not baking in ADP, at least that I can tell from both of those ranking sets right now. So like, you have to do some critical thinking to use these in a smart way. And I think that's always kind of the evergreen thing about projections, is like, these are a tool. They're not like a blunt instrument. They're not a skeleton key. They're something you can use to shortcut your process to get to the end goal you want to get to.
Yeah, no, very well said. Couldn't agree with you and the Wood anymore. There's also like some right tail outcome stuff that, like, a 28 projection isn't created the same for two archetypes of players, and like actually knowing the ball of that is pretty huge. Like, we always joke about Bilal Koulibaly and Isaiah Hartenstein and Draymond Green, these archetypes of players where their band of projection is always going to keep them in the player pool every single night that they're on like an 8-game slate, but the outlier right tail just like basically doesn't exist. Like, the Quentin Grimes outcome from last night just isn't in their bag, period. So you really have to know your ball as well. And I think it's a good dynamic for games right now that the more tools, the more accessibility to this. But I do think from our angle, like, you just can't drag and drop these, because there's a lot of nuance, and they don't factor in when the injury report is coming out. Like, right now we're dealing without the Warriors injury report. Like, if you just look at the free Stochastic one right now, LaMelo Ball now has Q tag. He's going to be falling like a rock in certain rooms. The old midday Q narrative. How are you going to leverage that if you're just drag and dropping and taking him at 5 every single time, or taking him at 3 every single time? You're going to end up with a boatload, right? And yeah, it's a very interesting push-pull dynamic. I think that's one really cool thing that Unabated's going to have in the future there with the contingent projection sets. They're mixing and matching and weighting those and weighting correlation. I think those are the two biggest edges coming forth.
Awesome. I'm excited to see those. Continue to look forward to drafting NBA slates when it works out with my schedule. But right now we're going to pivot to that new sport I was teasing at the top of the show, little thing called NFL. It looks like we were able to quickly fill this here, John. No influencer status for us. We are going to be drafting from the 110. I believe you and Nez drafted recently, but how many teams are you up to right now?
I think I'm still under 10. I think I'm at 6 or 7 thus far. I've done 5 or 6 on my own, and then I've done maybe 3 on stream thus far. So it's a little back weighted right now until I hope to get to the 30 to 50 range in the big board. That would kind of make me happy. I just really want to get MLB done first and then go from there. So it's a little bit of a hiatus right now outside of the one we'll do today and the one I'll do with Hayden on Thursday.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I've been doing a few of the slows in the bigger board. I think this is my 11th streamed big board draft. Have just been exclusively doing these on stream so far. People were wondering on Monday on Best Ball Breakfast if I would get FOMO and blast a bunch of slows at the buzzer. And I assure you that is not going to happen. But the flip side of that is I look forward to each and every one of these drafts because of the scarcity element for me right now. So the other thing I'm excited about, John, is I am on, and again, you can't really complain about this, but I am on a streak of all early picks. Like, I've had 1, 2, 3, 4 for virtually every best ball breakfast I've done, to the point where I was pulling up Ashton Jeanty. I pulled up Nico Collins on the stream on Monday. So I'm legitimately excited to have a 10 slot with you so I can actually draft different pockets of the board over here.
All right, that's good. That's good. I'm happy to hear that you're flipping the board here, but yeah, let's see what it looks like from the other side there.
You would have been proud, John. People were calling me Loco Pete on Monday because I took Gene T at 2. I think I took Nico at 2 or 3 or whatever. And you reach 8 spots ahead of ADP in the big board, and people start calling you Loco. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, what have you been doing left side of the board there? Is it just like stone cold chalk that Jamar is 1-0-1 across the board for everybody? Like this is an anomaly that Saquon goes 1 here?
Yeah, this is the anomaly. Every single time I have 102, I never am able to get Chase here. I will say, not as badged up as a room is typical. We have 3 non-badges at the top, then definitely some friends and family. See Hochberg, Brendan, Chris, Biff Tannen here. But yeah, the one thing we were talking about on Monday too with the chat was there is kind of like, it feels like a really flat tier in round 1. Like I do think Chase is the 101, but you can make cases for any of these running backs, a lot of these wide receivers. We're on the clock right now. ADP, you got a Monra, Neighbors. I'm definitely down to take one of those because then we'll kind of maybe like a running back that comes back to us. Do you have a preference of these two?
I'll be slapping the Neighbors table all off season here. Like we did it initially over Puka when there was like a little bit of FUD around, what's going to happen with Stafford and, maybe someone's going to come back. I don't think it's crazy to take Neighbors over BT or Puka.
No, I mean, I guess like if I were to release the PeterOverzet.com ranks, which no one would want, but I think I would agree with you on I would be Neighbors over Brian Thomas. I would still take Puka ahead of him, but I do think it's an interesting conversation in that Devontae Adams is going to be a bigger threat. Bowers goes. Bowers is just like my auto click when he's there. Gene T falls. There's also Achane. If you want to grab another wide receiver, Drake, Ladd. Anything stand out to you here?
Let's have some fun. Let's take Ashton there. Let's take the mystery of the landing spot. I don't know. Do you think the Raiders are more or less likely to draft him after their Mostert signing and whatever? You think those are just depth signings, or do you think they're still firmly entrenched in the market for him?
I think if we've learned anything kind of over the years with these truly blue chip, quote unquote, generational prospects, is teams will kind of throw depth chart out the window. Like even when the Falcons drafted Bijan, right? It's like, dude, Algier was coming off an awesome season where you could have totally justified rolling with him as your lead back and drafting a complimentary back later. So I think these teams, and if you think about how the Raiders are kind of constructing things right now, they're kind of like middling it. Like, yes, we have a guy like Brock Bowers who is going to be a foundational piece for us, but we're also kind of all in. Like we bring in Geno, who, if you're being generous, is like a bridge quarterback right now. Jacoby Myers is a veteran wide receiver. I wonder if they look and say, if we could just get a really explosive running back, a top 5 running back in the league, maybe we're closer to competing than people would expect. So I could totally see the Raiders talking themselves into Ginty needing to be the pick they have to have.
I mean, they had one, Pete, on that Christmas Eve or Christmas slate there in Sasir McCormick. That was a generational run on that one isolated slate.
I still, man, you just brought up so much pick'em pain because we just had, I think it was an absolute scorcher with Amir Abdullah.
Oh, fuck.
Wasn't it like it was like a 30, 40, 50Xer. It was something big.
Yeah, it was a 5-pick 50X that we needed one more reception, and they ran Sincere McCormick like the whole second half.
I was never, and then they were down, and they actually brought Abdullah in, but I believe Ritter had to come in the game for some reason, and then he wasn't checking down. So some of my biggest tilt this year revolved around Desmond Ritter because it was also in week 15, right? So first round of the best ball playoffs where Brock Bowers had a pretty decent first half And then Desmond Ridder came in and just could not get him the ball in the second half. And it was just like Brock Bowers disappeared. And there were so many like nutted Brock Bowers teams that died on the vine in week 15. So God, just talking about the Raiders gives me so much PTSD.
Yet here we are still taking Brock Bowers on the right-hand side of the board in the second round.
Yeah, no, there was some chatter in the ship chasing Discord the other day too about, could the Raiders be in the mix for Tet McMillan, grabbing another wide receiver, and what would that mean for potentially Brock Bowers' value? Would that be a good thing? A rising tide lifts all boats. Would that be a negative because now all of a sudden you're stealing away some of his targets? But I still do think like the reason I'm in on Brock Bowers is because I think if you turned his position right here to yellow and he was a wide receiver, I think we'd still be talking about him in this relative range, maybe a little bit. And then you add on the positional advantage that having that kind of a score at the tight end position. And then I don't balk at basically any price because he had just as good of a rookie year as Buka did. He had as good of a rookie year as Ladd McConkey, like as a wide receiver. So yeah, I just have a hard time saying bad things about Brock Bowers.
Yeah. Do you think the gap between him and Trey McBride should be this stark?
That's I think a more interesting argument.
Like is scoring touchdowns a skill?
I don't know. It's probably more just like a product of the offense.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting thing. I think you can definitely argue that, maybe if Marvin Harrison takes the leap, if they draft another wide receiver, which a lot of people are kind of penciling them in to do you lose some of that volume juice? I guess if I were to compare the two, like as just a straight up player, if I had to start a franchise, like I'm taking Brock Bowers, like as a player, I'm less concerned about who's coming and who's going around him. But that's nitpicky type stuff. All right, we're on the clock. By ADP, you're looking at Lamar, Evans, Brown, James Cook, Xavier Worthy. I got the leg up ranks in here, so we're seeing a little Jane Daniels up here. What do you like?
Let's say Chase
Brown?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I think there's if they don't add anyone in the draft, or if they just add like a day 3 guy, and you have Samaje Perine taking away, just like the ugly snaps, and then you have Zach Moss as a cut candidate, dude, there's room to run with him. Like that offense could just be so fun. Like we could be drafting the Bengals come BBM season as if they were like Miami of last year, probably higher, to be honest, where it's like that T Higgins ADP. And like, because last year it was like Tyreek goes in the first round, Waddle sometimes gets pushed up to that like 1-2 turn. And then, we were taking HN in the second/third round. I think we're going to see something very similar with the Bengals this year, both with contingent upside and just Bengals go burr.
Dude, this hasn't been happening a lot lately because like he's been getting steamed up, but I would love to get a Devontae Adams share at this early 4th if you're down.
That's exactly where my eyes went. Like, are we concerned at all about like the off-field stuff with Worthy, or is this?
I would be lying if I said it wasn't just like slightly in my head. Not even that I'm worried about him getting suspended. It's just like hard for me to, it just like introduces like slightly more risk. I will also say like the bullishness on Rashee Rice's timeline, I think is contributing to it a little bit. I think the vaulting up of Worthy and what we saw from him down the stretch was kind of contingent on, Rashee Rice not being as big part of it. I still think he's a great pick there. I'm sure I will have loads of him. To me, it's that I anticipate Devontae Adams settling as like a mid-3rd round pick, early 3rd round pick potentially. I just don't see any reason why the market won't catch up to wanting to draft him as aggressively as they did Cooper Kupp in a very similar situation last year. I mean, I'm pretty sure I remember us on stream taking late 2nd round Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, we did. We would do that kind of like week 17 correlation on the left-hand side of the board to push him over there, because it was like, what was the true difference between taking DK Metcalf, who always went over there, versus taking Cooper Kupp, ceiling outcome on the left-hand side of the board. Both aged poorly last year, but yeah.
We should talk about a little bit more about Chase Brown here too. I think he's really interesting. He's a completely different player than Kyron Williams, obviously, but I view kind of the situation in the ADP kind of really similar to the Kyron stuff last year, where it's like, yes, ultimately he is going to be kind of volume dependent, right? Like if they draft someone and then he's in a 50-50 split with him, then we just massively overpaid for him at this price tag. If we draft him in that, or if they draft someone and that running back gets the Blake Corum treatment and you're just a body to insure him, then all of a sudden it is a windmill slam dunk based on what he did last year with a bell cow workload. So I like in this type of format taking the risk on a guy that if you basically laid out like, hey, you were just going to get what you got from Chase Brown last year again this year, he'd be a late round 1 pick in these drafts. So I'm willing taking that risk on him.
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with you there, Pete. I think there's kind of a line in the sand where he's like the last like guy with a role, guy on good offense, and huge ceiling outcome as well. You know, because like look at these guys that are going after. It's like, yeah, mix in whatever. Like Cook led the league in touchdowns, rushing touchdowns last year, but they're hell bent on rotating every skill position player in that offense. Hampton could land somewhere. You know, Chuba, they just added Rico. I know they still gave Chuba the bag, but like he does represent kind of a line in the sand to me there, where it's like this is the last he could be legendary kind of thing, to borrow Pat's phrase.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and because again, you don't have to tell yourself a crazy story for that to be true. Like we already saw it, and I think even for the Chase Brown Bulls, you know, who were drafting him pretty aggressively last summer, I don't even think that range of outcomes was fully in our pie in the sky scenarios. Like I wanted him to just have like, you know, 12 to 15 touches a game, let him cook in open space, rip off some big plays, give us a few spike weeks. Like I did not see him turning into a full blown workhorse. That was pretty exciting stuff. Let's make these picks here. There's a couple good questions in the chat we can try to get to as well for our audio listeners. We started with 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers. We got Jeanty and Chase Brown at running back. We got Malik Neighbors and Devontae Adams at wide receiver. We're at the side of the board where we weren't able to get one of the top 3 tight ends. Brock Bowers goes early, Trey McBride in the mid-3rd, and then George Kittle in the early 5th. We're on deck now on the clock. We have by ADP some running backs here: Walker, Kamara, Henderson, Montgomery. Wide receivers, you got Waddle, Judy, Debo. The leg up ranks like Jawan Jennings. What do you like?
I would take the ceiling shot on Debo, Waddle, or Jennings here, and then wait for whichever running back comes back.
I think that makes sense. I have not gotten many Jawan Jennings shares, so I just grabbed him. Obviously, things kind of breaking really nice for him as far as breakout season last year. No more Debo. Who the fuck knows like what Ayuk's deal is going to be. He could be right up there with Kittle as like their co-1 in a lot of spots. So we grab him. Now we could make the opportunity to double up. We could go Debo again, who I still like. Or we could grab a running back if you want to go 3 running backs earlier. I don't really see a tight end here.
I think if Ken Walker came back, I would have pounded the table for the running back because I do think they could skew run heavy. I think Debo's the pick here, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like he's been a polarizing guy. Like whenever I was talking about him, even before the Washington trade, people were down on him. Obviously, I think sentiment's gone up a little bit, but there still is like a firm camp that's like Debo's washed, doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I'm excited about him in Washington.
Here's a super lazy, we declared them dead, washed comp from last year. Austin Eckler. Like Austin Eckler played all of last year, 2 years ago, hurt. Everyone left him for dead. And then he had a nice resurgent year in a pass catching role that fit him with Washington. Now you bring in Debo, who dealt with pneumonia last year for multiple weeks there, and then also had the injuries. Everyone said he put on a couple LBs, that sort of thing. Give him a full offseason to get healthy. And I don't know, man. I just think I don't think Cliff Kingsbury's like necessarily sharp, but I do think horizontal raid and all the stuff that he tried to do with Rondell Moore for all those years and was staring across to the other sideline, looking at Debo, licking his chops, going, that guy would fit our shit so well. and now he's kind of finally got him.
Yeah, and I think it boils down to how much do you think that what he was going through with the fluid in his lungs and then getting out of shape actually impacted it? Or are you saying, hey, that's just convenient, agent speak, PR speak, because he had a rough season and this is how you're going to spin zone it? If you think the latter, then you don't like him at this price. If you think the former, then this is a really nice price for, at worst, is a lateral move for offensive upgrade. And when you spin it, like you said, how they run the horizontal raid, how they have a very ambiguous backfield where there's going to be touches, I think up for grabs there for Debo. We just saw Jaden Daniels elevate so many people. He just got Olamide paid in free agency. We watched Diaby Brown
And
get paid in free agency. So, like, I have no doubt that Jaden can make Debo Samuel look really good in this offense. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. And I'm happy to keep sprinkling him in at ADP over here.
If we had known Diami had the role which he had in the postseason last year, if we had known he had that role all year long last year, where would he have been drafted in BBM?
I mean, if you also know that Jaden Daniels breaks out like he did, he probably would have been like a 7th or 8th round pick.
Yeah. And now we're getting an established guy who will be involved in the run game as well, who we think is probably still more talented than Diami Brown is currently.
Yeah.
I mean, Debo's only 29. He just turned 29. I know there's a cliff somewhere in there, but I'm not ready to call it quits on him at 29 right now, going to a favorable environment.
All right. We are about to pick again. We'll see here. We do have a bit of a slide on Brandon Ayuk. I mean, just a few spots, I should say. We have Khalil Shakur, who's up here. We have the rookie, Matthew Golden. If we were looking for a tight end, Hawkinson's here. Biff does take Ayuk. I'm kind of like gravitating to Golden right now, but I don't know if you have somebody that stands out to you.
From everything I've heard and read, he's supposed to be a riser because of the combine that he had. I'm down to just take a flyer on those rookie wide receivers. The rookie wide receiver data, even in a class that isn't potentially the greatest ever, that sort of deal. Like everyone's talking about the running back class here opposed to the wide receiver class as it's more middling and flat, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still going to have big time winners for our contests coming out of this rookie class.
Yeah. And I think it seems like a near lock that Matthew Golden will be a first round pick. Typically, if he's going picks 20 to 30 or whatever into the round, you're going to be going to a team with a good quarterback. I think like the comps I've seen for him is kind of like you're looking for like a Will Fuller type, where he's like a really strong number 2. Who can
don't get me excited. I was drafted Will Fuller way past when it was cool to draft Will Fuller, Pete.
Oh, yes. Maybe the young kids don't remember Will Fuller, but us grizzled vets certainly do. I also like him in the context of this team, right? Like, let's make this pick and then we can decide how we want to do it. The Brock Purdy stack, I mean, Brock Purdy's probably not coming back. We could also get like the last decent wide receiver in Josh Downs, or John, we could play the hits and get your boy Tony Pollard.
I think we got to play the hits here.
All right, let's do it. Especially because on Twitter, our guy Emo Cowboy replied and said John's going to love Tony Pollard's price. So let me ask you, do you love pick 87 price for Tony Pollard?
I think it's entirely reasonable. I like the potential of Cam Ward coming there as well. So I'm good with it. I do think Tajay Spears flashed a little bit more last year than a true Tony redacted bull would like to see. But I don't know, some injury concerns with him too there. The Cup ADP there too, right after. That's interesting. I was going to ask you where that one went. But yeah, I think I'm fine with the price tag. I can't imagine, Pittsburgh just rolls into the season without adding another back there. I do think he has like a safe-ish role comparative to those around him. I guess the Najee and Aaron Jones price tags are better than the Tony redacted right now, though.
Yeah. I mean, Najee's moving up big time, post Chargers, as he should. He's finally, I was calling for him to be around the James Conner, David Montgomery range. He's already, quickly approaching that. Circling back to the Golden thing, the other point I was just going to make, like, we have a pretty strong veteran room here for wide receiver. Like, we kind of know what we're getting from a lot of these guys. Obviously, Adams, Jawan Jennings, like, we know that they're not going to just like stop being bad football or good football players. So I like taking the high upside swing with Golden as a wide receiver 5, as opposed to Shakir. Like, if we had the 3 running back start and we mixed in an elite tight end and we're like scrambling, then those are the teams I'm like, Khalil Shakir, you are perfect. We will take your 6.5 targets a game and we'll take those points. But I like swinging for the fences with this wide receiver room.
Yeah, that checks out to me too. Yeah, just from like a structural standpoint. Actually, Pete, was my assessment on the wide receiver class like kind of accurate? Everyone thinks the running back class is stronger than the wide receiver class, and the wide receiver is like very middling. Like it's kind of like Tet on an island, but he's not a top 10 kind of guy, or he's a fringe top 10 guy in most drafts. And then kind of like that, the rest of that area is just kind of like you can play whack-a-mole with the next like 5-6 guys.
Yes. But I do think like the top end, at least if you compare draft capital, I feel like it's going to be relatively similar to some of these classes. It's just like in this last class, how many like guys did we see go at the beginning of the second round in like good spots? Like it feels like that mid depth, right, is where we're going to be lacking this year. Because I do think if you're like me and want to view Hunter as a wide receiver, you're going to get him in the top 5. You're going to get Tet, at worst 15. You're going to get, and then probably 3 more. You're probably going to get Golden, Ibuka, and Luther Burden all going in round 1. And so like to have 5 wide receivers going in round 1, like to me, that's still like pretty strong. Maybe you say it's like average and not as good as these past couple of years, which is hard to live up to. But I still think the high end is solid. But yes, that is kind of the sentiment, that the depth is a lot weaker.
That kind of feels like 2 years ago, maybe not 3 years ago, 2 years ago, where it was like, no one really knew the JSN, the QJ, the Zay, and Addison, and it was like hard to parse through that tier, but they all found their way into round 1 kind of deal.
Yes. Yeah. This is beautiful. Brock comes back into our lap here. So let's go ahead and lock him up. Let's see here. James says, why assume Golden has more upside than Khalil Shakir? Because Khalil Shakir didn't crack 20 fantasy points once last year. Like Khalil Shakir does not have a ceiling. Like he has a floor. Like that is literally the selling point for Khalil Shakir. Whereas Golden, his profile indicates that he will be this splash play wide receiver who can put up bigger scores. So the entire thesis of the rookies is that the black box naturally gives them, more upside than these profiles that we know exactly who they are. Drake May is here. David Njoku could be a tight end. DeAndre Swift is up here at running back. What do you think?
Are there back stack options for Herbert or no? Not really.
Not really.
Okay, let's take May.
Okay, I'll sneak him in here.
Kind of a little like honey hole for quarterback right now, huh? Like I anticipate BBM like quarterbacks are going to push up in a bigger way. Like the fact that you can get Jaden Daniels and Lamar and Hurts all in the 4th / front end 3rd round right now is kind of wild. When the normies of BBM season get in here, and the importance of, I think one conversational topic this offseason will be the importance of the onesies and just like the inherent scoring of Underdog versus the whole piss boy era that we've been going through. I think people are going to really hone in on elite quarterback scoring matters on our site, and these guys are going to get chased up the board a little bit there. So like this feels like a good sweet spot to just bang bang start your quarterback room with guys that are going to be 2-3 rounds higher in BBM.
And the trap is to look at like the queue of purple and be like, oh, I'm good, I can just push it, because these runs in this range happen very fast. And if you're close to the turns, like from my experience, you can get shut out quickly. And I'm actually going to be working on an article for Fantasy Life this week, looking at the back end quarterbacks, being like, who are the guys that are draftable right now? And I'm going to define draftable as we know they're going to play 17 games. And then where does it start to get dicey because of incoming rookies, because of quarterback battles, because they're just free agents right now and haven't signed. And you end up in that territory a lot quicker than you'd like if you play chicken in this range, because the room will gobble these up here in, rounds 9 through 11.
Yeah, well said, Pete. Some interesting ADPs going through there. The Travis Hunter one, obviously, that you've talked ad nauseum about and made the video. There's also Christian Kirk has the room fully adjusted to his new landing spot as like the Tank Dell kind of replacement or pseudo replacement there. And then Hollywood Brown, who, disappointing year last year, but just signed again there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Those are some really interesting targets right there.
I would have wanted to pound the table for Hunter if he came back to us at 106. He goes 100 here.
We're all looking for the guy, man.
Let's see the other elements here for us for the listeners catching up. We have a 2-3-5 build right now. We have Brock stacked up with Juwan Jennings. We have a naked Drake May. We got 3 running backs, G&T, Chase Brown, and Tony Pollard, and then 5 wide receivers, no tight ends yet, Neighbors, Adams, Juwan Jennings, Debo, Golden. The chat did remind me when I said there wasn't many stack options for Herbert. There actually are, because I forgot about Mike Williams re-signing there. Disley is a super late round dart, and then you still have QJ on the board. So honestly, not the worst back stack. And even then, I think in this, maybe you get the Stinny stack with Herbert, but you don't even necessarily have to force something too crazy. So shout out to the chat on that call. I do think Herbert would have been fine there with some of those options. I wasn't being creative enough.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I think it's fine. Like Herbert's just a guy I continually want to bet on, but I do understand that the way that offense sets up for them to succeed is most likely not through Herbert's arm. But Herbert did have some big time spike and did run more than we give credit the last 4 or 5 weeks of the regular season last year. So yeah, I don't know. I like it. Give him a full year with a healthy offensive line and Ladd. That's fun.
Yeah. All right. We're back on the clock here. Goddard is around ADP if we want to kind of get our first tight end. Trey Harris is kind of another one of those rookies people are getting excited about. I don't love this running back range right here of like Bigsby, although he is a little bit of a value. What do you like?
Well, let's do Goddard. I think we should start a tight end room here, and he does kind of feel like safest of the bunch, although is there any chance they move on from him, like cut candidate and or trade candidate?
I saw now that you say that, I wanted to say I saw some report that they were listening to offers about him. I guess I would say in that scenario though, right? Like we're not stacking him up with Hurts. We don't have Hurts. You would think if a team traded for him, they would be pretty excited to deploy him in a way that would, be kind of lateral for his value. If anything, maybe he goes somewhere where he could be the second option and not like the clear-cut third option. So I don't know, maybe you could spin zone it as something that wouldn't be awful.
Here's Galbrain, Seattle. Noah Fant was originally a cut candidate. They're, lacking depth as pass catchers. They need inline blocking with bad offensive line. Kubiak loves to run 12. I like it.
All right, we are back on the clock here. Man, this is kind of like a choose your own adventure. Keenan's here, Dalton Kincaid, Trey Benson.
I would say Keenan I like Keenan.
All right, let's grab Keenan.
I still think he can land somewhere that matters.
Yeah. Yeah, they were talking about it on ADP chasing this morning. They seemed a little more down on it. It seemed like Pat and crew were like, yeah, if he, re-signs with the Bears, that could be okay. If New England grabbed him, obviously a path to targets. I don't know. I guess I'm still a little more inclined to think we just saw Keenan go to a team where they had like legit competition, DJ Moore, a rookie wide receiver they drafted very highly, and he still was their most productive receiver through large stretches of that year. Like, I'm inclined to think that Keenan Allen can still go somewhere and earn targets, even if it's in a secondary role. And I certainly think Keenan Allen can still pay off an ADP of 135 in the same vein that like late stage Adam Thielen, has
No,
shown up, where it's
absolutely.
just like this dude is good at football. And yes, maybe you're trying to thread the needle a little bit for a landing spot. And it is weird that he hasn't signed at this point. But I
Yeah,
still
him
think
and
Keenan Allen's
Amari
going to play
Cooper.
football.
Yeah,
Yeah.
him and Amari Cooper are the two where it's kind of like, what are the red flags that everybody else is seeing? Because, by the eye test, Amari and Keenan have both played better ball than Cooper Kupp recently, and Cooper Kupp's out here getting 3 years, 45. So, yeah.
Yeah. Going back to Chargers, I think would be solid as well. That would be interesting for Lad. It's like Lad is immediately on the fast track to be the next Keenan Allen in Los Angeles, and they're like, but by the way, we're bringing back the old Keenan Allen to deal with that.
Everyone's going crazy about this Jaden Higgins going up here. He's one of the Iowa kids, right? 130 whatever there. People flexing in
Jaden
the chat
Higgins?
here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Although
that's
I
early,
don't
right?
think it's,
No?
let me see, what's his ADP? Higgins ADP. Yeah, a little bit, 15 picks, but I don't know. I don't really balk at ADP like jumps like once we're in this range of the board, where it's just after the 130s, like, yeah, if you like a guy and you take him 50, I'm not like, oh shit. Whereas like, if you do that in round 3 and grab a guy 15 picks ahead, it's like, what are you doing? Just wait one more round and you'll get a better player.
Is he he's potentially one of those guys for back end first round capital, or is he going to be a little bit lower than that?
I'd have to default to the chat on that. I don't think he's a round 1 guy. I think you're hoping for round 2 on Jaden Higgins. Yeah, 4.47 at 6'4", 214 pounds. So people were getting excited after the combine. Here, our guy Brett Coleman had a post about him the other day. If you want to buy lowish on a receiver prospect that was way less productive in college than he will be at the NFL with pro caliber QB play, here's a nutty Jaden Higgins stat. 29% of his targets were on go routes last year. They threw 42 of them at him, but only 16 were catchable, and he caught all of them. Out of every receiver in the draft class, he had the 3rd most incompletions because of bad throws from the quarterback. And even with that, he still put up 87 for 1,100 yards and 9 TDs last year. So that's kind of an interesting story to tell.
Yeah, in 1998, that frame and that prototypical X field stretcher would have been going way higher than in the modern NFL.
Yeah. Yep. All right, we are about to pick here in the 13th round. I think after a couple kind of May picks, I kind of like how the draft board is breaking for us positionally. There's a few different running backs that I think are interesting here. One that I still think the value hasn't maybe fully caught up to that I think is a really good price here is Jordan Mason. Or Jalen Wright or Blake Corum, I think would also be interesting.
I'm a Jalen Wright and Corum bull right now, but let's do the Mason thing. Sell me this pen on Mason.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one a decent bit, and I think he's underpriced here at 154. I'm also probably a little influenced. I was listening to the guys on ADP Chasing talk about him this morning, but like when I was thinking about his price earlier this week, I'm like, at worst, he's like Tyler Algier, right? Where he's going to have some standalone value and then have massive contingent upside. But then based on some of the stuff we saw with Aaron Jones, the team has just been somewhat wishy-washy on him. We saw him get soft bench at times last year, dealing with fumbles, obviously dealing with injuries. The Vikings don't really have a path to add another impact running back. The other guys in that room right now are not imposing whatsoever. I'm just starting to think that Jordan Mason could have a bigger role than we anticipate, and his rise in ADP, I think, is definitely coming.
Okay. I respect it.
What do you think? What do you think about stacking up Stafford with Adams and being done at quarterback?
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Wow, that was the least excited I've ever. A long pause followed by the most just meek. Okay.
Okay, I'm curious what the cliff at quarterback looks like right now.
Yeah.
To be taking Stafford in the 14th. Like
to me, it's pretty stark.
Okay, so Ward, we can play the. I mean, it sounds like Tennessee, right? That's what the Ward narrative.
Think so. I think he's going to
be.
go 1. Yeah.
Okay, and then Darnold. What intrigued us about Seattle for a long time there was up tempo, pace up. They were getting off all the snaps. With Kubiak, it might be the opposite, but we did see New Orleans look generational for the first 3 weeks of the season, which lets me leave the light on a little bit. But yeah, after that, man, you're literally just throwing landing spot darts.
I think the other kind of fun thing we could have done is taken Shedeur Sanders and say the Giants take him at 3, like the most recent mock drafts have, and then we stack up Shedeur with Malik Neighbors.
Yeah.
But like if you take out that kind of, slightly gal brain, you're, jumping to conclusion stack thing, like this is what I was kind of talking about in that pocket that you get here. And it's like, okay, Darnold, if they do draft a guy like Jackson Dart, I don't think is a lock to start in the fantasy playoffs. There's no stacking possibilities with these other guys. Rodgers, Wilson don't have a team. Like you get into territory so quickly that I'm like, if you're going to give me a stacking element to something I already have, and I know they're going to play 17 games, then like, I'm just going to fucking take that at ADP.
Right. Yeah. That's that. Yeah. Okay.
That's well, and to me, it's like, okay, not, if we're grabbing Devontae Adams, right? Like we're saying like Adams is hanging. He's not falling off a cliff. He's going to do what he keeps doing. Like to me, that necessitates that Stafford is having another solid year, as well. And I know the stigma of him, not having as much of a ceiling. I think that was debunked a little bit last year. We saw him pop off for a few more 25-point games than he had previously. I think even Devontae Adams might have a little more juice in the tank than Kupp right now for big plays, compared to what we saw last year. So I don't know. I don't have a problem with him as a third QB right now.
Yep. That all ticks the boxes there. That is you being more experienced in these draft lobbies than I, and recognizing that cutoff, because it definitely is stark.
Yeah. And like you said, maybe if you had a guy you really wanted, I think the Shedeur angle would have been fun. And I do think of all of these guys, like Shedeur's price is still really nice to me. I think he's going to go top 5. I think he's going to start 17 games. I think he's the kind of guy that I think's able to start right out of the gate. Like that's almost the selling point. It's like he's accurate. Like, so if you're going to get 17 games from a rookie, and we're always so bad collectively at evaluating these guys, as whether they're going to be good or not, and you get Malik Neighbors at your disposal, I'm like, Shedeur Sanders at this price, like, is a target to me. And it looks like he'll fall back to us here. So that would have been kind of maybe the sliding doors decision there.
I'm looking up. This is kind of bullish for you, Pete, here on this Jordan Mason deal, that it's 7.23 guaranteed.
That's
like,
nice.
You don't see that for running back 2-year deals.
I'm just queuing up Henry in that could use a tight end, got Drake May right at ADP. There's also some other guys, Komet, Frymuth, but I just go with the correlation there. Some rookie wide receivers in the mix here as well. What do you like?
Yeah, I'm really good with this here. Our tight end room's weak, and we're going to end up with at least 3 on this roster. So why not correlate? Let's give it a scroll here at the wide receiver and running back position. See what we're dealing with for the next pick.
Yeah. So wide receiver, you got a bunch of kind of the veterans at the top. You can see here, the leg up ranks have a lot of the rookies pushed up. Restrepo, Royals, Besh. There's that at running back. Similar concept. Ollie Gordon's kind of interesting. He was a guy like pre-combine, a lot of people liked, and now he's just massively dropping because he didn't test too well. He's a guy I wouldn't mind kicking the tires on. I honestly don't mind Braylon Allen either. If you want to go to a guy like Eckler, Damian Martinez, another rookie that has some buzz, anything in here I think is fair game.
Let's go with Ollie because it's a sick name.
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know anything about Ollie Gordon yet.
Yeah. I just know he had a bad combine, and then everyone was like, fuck it, I'm out. But yeah, people are the film bros still like Ollie Gordon.
Okay.
Even his overall, I was looking here at his overall RAS, it still isn't like horrendous. He scored an unofficial 8.16 out of 10. That ranked 352 out of 1,900 running backs. So it's like, it's not elite, but it's also not like bottom of the barrel. And he was productive in college. So I think he's an interesting guy. You can always sell yourself on some of these running backs. It's like if a team likes him, if a team can trust him, the athleticism stuff can go out the window very quickly.
Right. Yeah. Couple names that when we were scrolling there that I found interesting. The Jordan Whittington narrative has kind of fizzled out and died with the Adams signing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it has. That was another interesting one where, his ADP is still hovering here. It doesn't even look like the leg up guys don't even have him ranked.
Yeah, it took him out. So he's a full contingent play now, which they're not bullish on at all. They also re-signed Tutu Atwell.
Tutu.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Another name there at the running back position, Will Shipley with Kenny Gainwell moving on.
Yeah.
Just in terms of contingent upside and maybe more established role. Obviously love the juice that we saw from him in the postseason last year.
Yeah. I like that. I've been clicking him a little. And it's always funny, right? You have these rookies that you go in on hard and then they don't do much. And then it's like you have this aversion to taking them again. Like, I'm not going to make that mistake. But then you zoom out and you're like, man, Barkley gets a shit ton of touches. Gainwell's not there. They've seen, they liked Shipley as a playmaker, right? They were using him as a returner in some very valuable spots during that playoff run. We saw him rip off some big returns. So I'm still in on the Shipley love, especially if you could get like a smidge of standalone value, right? Like if you had him as he's essentially free and he popped into your lineup once or twice during the regular season, and then you get the contingent break in the playoffs. That's the stuff BBM dreams are made of.
Exactly. We're looking for 6 to 8 touches a week potential here, not even, as floor outcomes.
So our team structure right now, we're at a 3-5-6-2. So, we're done at quarterback. We're pacing well at each position. Our quarterback room is Brock Purdy, Drake May, Matthew Stafford. We got all of those guys skinny stacked as of right now. Running back room solid. Gene T and Brown up top. Pollard, Mason, Ollie Gordon. Perfectly cromulent running back room. 6 wide receivers as well. Neighbors, Adams, Jawan Jennings, Deebo Samuel, Golden, Keenan Allen. Tight end, Goddard and Henry. I would say this team could use a few splashes at rookie wide receiver and rookie tight end. And then other than that, I think we got a lot of room to play around with.
Yeah, agree with you there. Oh man, some more interesting names here. Just learning where guys are going as we roll here. That second swing, second time round on AD Mitchell there, and DeAndre Hopkins now vaulting up into 17th round territory now that he is, officially signed there. Does that interest you at all, or do you think he's just cooked?
I just have a hard time with it. It's just he wasn't able to get it done in KC when the runway was really there for him to do so with limited target competition. Kelsey falling off. Hollywood Brown working his way back in. It's how is it? Baltimore's going to be much more, lower volume. They have plenty of studs in that offense too. So I just have a hard time seeing him being fantasy relevant. And what are your chances at a true breakout? They're less than 2%, or something here, where he just smashes his ADP in the way some of these rookies could. So I don't know. I just always gravitate to the black box or a correlated piece over him. I guess if I had Lamar and I just needed something, I would maybe kick the tires on it, but I don't know.
Yeah, your ceiling outcome is like 55, 600, and 5 touchdowns or something, and it's like that would be a huge smash, and it doesn't really move the needle.
So I do like Harold Fannin. He's a guy I know Dwayne Supermodel likes a ton. Could be a fun upside tight end piece for us.
Should we stack Higby, or is that too far? Fannon's more fun. Let's do Fannin.
Yeah, hang on. How about this? Let's do Shipley. Let's
Mm,
do Shipley because we
nice.
just got ourselves excited about him.
Yeah, we did.
And then we'll see what the room gives us because I think that's a good conversation to have. Because this is like the spot, right? Where do you take the guy Fannin who might be able to return like 10th round value, like in his ceiling scenarios, or do you take Higbee and you're playing the correlation angle and saying, hey, this team gets to the dance. Let us get a Stafford, Higbee team. And we now have that decision here of Fannin and Higbee. I think I generally, because we have Goddard and Henry, I'm more inclined to go with the rookie upside than I am whatever correlation juice Higbee gives us.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Let's take let's take the juice. Bowling Green, 6'3", 231, vertical athleticism. All right.
Yet the other thing, copy paste says Fannin could get drafted by the Rams too. This is we always talk about running backs, how bombs can go off in the backfield before the draft and like everything you think you have sorted out about a depth chart in your mind gets obliterated. Like that kind of feels to me a lot like this tight end class because this tight end class has some dudes that can go deeper here. Would not be surprised to see some of these weaker tight end guys get displaced, by a Fannin, by an Elijah Arroyo, a Mason Taylor, some of these guys people are getting excited about on the back end who should go fairly high in the draft.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, the conversation to have then is Higbee one of those weaker tight end guys then?
I think so.
Yeah,
I mean, he did flash a little bit there, but it was almost always when someone was banged up or out, right? Like, when his targets really spiked.
It was,
I don't know. He's just yeah. I was going to call him a K-Dot Nass tight end where it's like, yes, if like the C's part perfectly and he's able to get like 8 targets, it starts to look good. But I don't know. I feel like we've seen enough of Tyler Higbee at this point to know who he is.
Yeah, I think it was just living rent-free in my head the first half of the game in the postseason there where he was working over Cooper Kupp and just got peppered for like 5 catches in the first half and Cooper Kupp had a 0 and it was like, is he the eraser here? Is he the guy? But yeah, he's a 32-year-old tight end who people have been trying to mentally replace for years now. So yeah.
Yeah, and I do think like if you flip I don't know, like say I'm trying to come up with a good tight end room where maybe we break the tie in the other direction. Like say we start with Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. And it's like we're taking these 2 kind of exciting rookie darts, the 2 best prospects at the position. The third pick, like, should we add a third rookie tight end? Like we might be taking some stone cold zeros to start the season. Maybe Higbee makes sense more in that context. But I do think with Goddard and Hunter Henry, just the most fucking eliminator ass tight end room you've ever drafted. Let's spice it up a little bit, Johnny boy.
Yeah, I'm down to start spicing for sure. Where did Strange go? Or has he gone yet? Is he been a
he
riser
definitely
yet?
went. He has been, maybe not as much as he should. Where did he go?
14, I think. That's high.
There he is. Yeah.
Chris's team or Biff's team. Yeah.
Biff. Yeah. 160 there. I wrote him up when I wrote my kind of like fantasy life ADP risers in like winners, post free agency. And I circled him as a guy that I think should be going higher. I haven't gotten to him as much as I should, partly because sometimes he just jumps out ahead of ADP. He's a guy you're going to have to go out and get because the drafters are hip to him for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Why am I blanking on the running back who ran really fast at the combine? Why am I blanking on his name?
On who?
The running back who ran really fast at the combine.
Oh, Tootin,
yeah, because the last big board we did, the last 2 picks we had, were Tootin and Strange or something like
Nice.
that. Like it's just like it's crazy to see the shifting landscape even this early before landing spots. Like I think Tootin was like 15th or 16th round, and then Strange in the last round. Wild.
We got our final pick here. I think it should definitely be a wide receiver to get us to 7. I think it should be a rookie wide receiver. Torrey Horton. The chat always tries to bully me into selecting Ty Felton. I've taken Savion Williams.
Never capitulate to the chat. Let's take Horton.
Horton, good old CSU boy there.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jennings.
Yeah, I was listening to Eric Froton was on Pat's podcast, and he was saying some nice things about him as kind of a route runner and someone who's pretty polished as far as being able to translate right away. So get us a little more upside in a kind of veteran wide receiver room. Let me read back this team, John, now that is in the books here. John and Pete draft a big board team. Brock Purdy, Drake May, Matthew Stafford, all of them skinny sack. Whoa, we have one more pick.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we got one more.
I completely thought we were done.
Let's take Parker Washington. Maybe
Okay.
he's the
like
benefactor of that absent slot role now.
Yeah. I can't
They
believe
liked him in camp last year too.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that like you're kind of hoping for DeMario Douglas kind of thing where it's just like this guy's good at football. Maybe there's an injury, maybe there's a couple spike weeks that pop up in there. Maybe they don't draft a wide receiver worth a damn, in the first 3 or 4 rounds. Yeah, I don't mind that. All right,
Jackson
now I
beside
will.
us did the. I was just looking at Jackson beside us there. Did the cheeky backdoor Seattle stack in the last 2 rounds. MVS and AJ Barner.
That's some sick stuff, Jax.
That is sick.
That's some sick stuff, for sure. Okay, here's the team for real: Brock Purdy, Drake May, Matthew Stafford. Exciting whites at quarterback. 6 running backs. I gotta say, I love our running backs here. G&T, Chase Brown, Tony Pollard, Jordan Mason, Ollie Gordon, Will Shipley. Basically every kind of variety of a running back you could draft there. Ended up getting to 8 wide receivers. Neighbors, Adams, Juwan Jennings, Deebo Samuel, Matthew Golden, Keenan Allen, Torrey Horton, and Parker Washington. And then our 3 tight ends, Dallas Goedert, Hunter Henry, Harold Fannin Jr. I like this one, John. I like this one.
It's a good balance of archetypes of players there. It's pretty, I think, safe by like our usual drafting standards. Like it's just like it's pretty balanced, I guess. It just feels good. Yeah, and if we get a good landing spot for Genty, and I'm gonna have way too much Malik Neighbors, I can already tell. But yeah, I like it.
It's I was just noticing this team here next to us. Matt Gutt has a 3-4-11-1 build, 11 wide receivers.
Wow.
I will say the safer build, like I do think safer is optimal in the big boards, being robust specifically at the onesie positions. That's why I'm going to write that article too about like really don't want to be taking the zeros at your quarterback. Like if you take your 3 quarterback team like immediately down to a 2 quarterback team, you just open yourself up to so many more dead team possibilities, unless of course you're taking 2 really early quarterbacks, yada, yada. But I think it is, we've seen kind of with going back to Leone's manifesto, like we know the number one most important thing for success is to have healthy live players when you get to the finals. And it's like, what's the simplest thing we can do to have that? It's like, well, at least take 3 at the onesies and don't take, stone cold zeros at them. So I don't mind playing it a little safer. And then once BBM comes, we know these fucking depth charts. We know it all. Then we can start doing our 2 QB, our 2 tight end. We can have the same conversation again. If you can do single Brock Bowers at tight end, we can get back to all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Pete, to close the book on that Jordan Mason conversation, because I'm seeing it brought up again in the chat. Aaron Jones was only guaranteed $3 more million than him.
Interesting.
11 guaranteed at sign. Oh, so I guess 3 and a bit. 11 at signing. No opt out next year, but it is backloaded because it's a 9 million base next year. So Aaron Jones instantly becomes a cut candidate for next year if Mason takes on a big enough role this year. And Mason's is balanced across 2 years, opposed to being back weighted like that.
Yeah.
Huh. I kind of like where you're at with this idea.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been like warming up to it quickly. And I do think he's a scary compliment for Aaron Jones in that he's a guy that can get those goal line carries. You know, if you start to lose that, if Aaron Jones gets more pushed to even a 50-50 split is obviously bad for Aaron Jones relative to where he's being drafted. Like, to me, the bigger thing might not even be that Jordan Mason is like the world's biggest slam dunk. It might be that Aaron Jones is pretty overvalued right now. Like, if we look at his ADP at pick 82, man, like I think I could find a lot of guys. I mean, give me Pollard, give me Warren, give me Ramondre. Fine. I'll take him over Pacheco, ETN, Sharbs, Swift. I don't know. I think just looking at these names, he looks overpriced by a couple of rounds to me.
Yeah. And I mean, like, they've never really spent on competent backup play with Kevin O'Connell. You know what I mean? Like, I see the knocks in the chat that, like, yeah, they were running out Cam Akers after the trade last year, and Cam Akers was getting burned alongside Aaron Jones late in the season there. Like, they haven't, I mean, I think it's unjust comp to like Ty Chandler, to Myles Gaskin, to guys like that who were on the roster beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, John, it felt good to watch in real time. You knock a little of that, baseball and hoops, knock the NFL rust off as you focus on hoops and baseball and other sports. But doesn't it feel good? Sprinkle in some of these NFL drafts.
It does. It's a nice balance. It's really good to get acquainted with the player pool again and kind of like some of the shifting values. I'm really intrigued to start learning, more about these rookies. So it's not just like insert whack-a-mole rookie at the back end of draft board. It's more like, oh, we like this guy because X. So I do think I have to spend a little more time with the rookie class prior to landing spots to formulate some of those opinions. But outside of that, you showed me the ropes, Pete, and it felt good.
Everything I know about these rookies, I've learned from a couple of podcasts and things the chat tells me. So all you have to do is be willing to listen, and you can learn. You could learn so much. Or while we're debating a guy, I just Twitter search Ollie Gordon and then found, like 5 different facts about him. So you can get caught up to speed quickly, John.
Yeah, I like it. Looking forward to doing so. Gonna get caught up a little bit more to speed in 2 days' time with Hayden on Thursday too. So be excited to run that one.
And I saw that they just started on the Underdog channel trickling out their prospect profiles. I believe they had Omarion Hampton out today. There's also an email in my inbox from JJ Zacharyson that says Omarion Hampton is him. So today is officially Omarion Hampton hype day, I believe.
I mean, that checks out why he went in the 4th round immediately after we took Chase Brown. So maybe that line in the sand that I was articulating with the Chase Brown hype isn't as clear if Hampton is him.
That's right. Did you say, John, you're going to run a little hoops show after this?
Yeah. If you were on the BadgeBros channel, you were going to get redirected there. Give me about 4 minutes to feed the dog and that sort of thing. And then I will immediately be firing that one up. Quick and dirty, unabated 4-game breakdown. And then probably going to draft a dinger here unless Mr. Giboy needs to go outside because he's been having some tummy troubles all night. I'm not gonna lie.
All right. Sounds good. So stay tuned for that. As for me, definitely go check out ADP Chasing. So we announced today Jacob Sanderson, a fellow good old boy Canadian.
Good Canadian, good Vancouverite.
Yeah, going to be joining the show as a full-time co-host. So they're going to be doing those shows regularly now, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. Really good show this morning, debuting Sanderson on there. So you can check that out over on Ship Chasing. I will have lulls on Thursday, ship chasing. We're also going to have a little show announcement for ship chasing. And I believe we're going to try to do a mock draft. Like we're going to go through and just draft the fantasy players and try to slot them, the round one guys, all to the teams as close to what we think the reality will be. And yeah, so that'll be the stuff coming up for me. And also, if keep an eye out on Fantasy Life, because I'm working on this quarterback article, going to kind of go into more detail all of these different situations and how I think is kind of optimal to play these guys right now, even taking a boring ass Matthew Stafford if the time arises. All right, appreciate all you. Hit the like and the subscribe on the way out, whether you guys are watching on my channel or John's, and we'll see you guys next time on Off and On the Clock. Peace.